Hi, I'm here to tell you about a pretty awesome way that you can create lessons within Seesaw for your students. During this time, we're not there for them, at least in person. And so those lessons that we deliver on a daily basis, they're created at school. They're scaffolded by us. We walk them through these concepts. And it's really difficult to create that same learning experience online, especially within certain platforms that we're using. For those of you that are using Seesaw like I am, I have figured out a way to create a similar type lesson and scaffold it for my students. And I would like to share that with you now. For those of you who may have not used Seesaw before, this is an amazing platform that has changed the way I have taught over the last 6 years. And I will say it has been a lifesaver since this distance learning has taken place. And so I've created a few simple ideas to walk you through and show you what I can do within Seesaw. Now, the lesson that I'm going to be showing you is created with Seesaw for schools. So, if you have Seesaw Plus and Seesaw for schools, you have the ability to have multiple pages. If you are using the free version of Seesaw, you have one page. And each page allows for you to have 5 minutes of video. So, for those of you using Seesaw Plus or Seesaw for schools, you actually have 5 minutes per page to help teach your students new concepts. So, for this activity, I went ahead and I created 3 pages. And when I create an activity in Seesaw, I give the activity a name. I type up the instructions, what my students are going to be learning about, what I would like them to do. I always add voice instructions where I read the instructions and I talk to them a little bit more of what my expectations are. This is really great and really necessary even for those who have learning challenges, who might struggle in reading, and especially for any students or any grade levels that are emerging or beginning reading. So you can talk to them via the voice instructions. And then, of course, you are creating an activity for them. So typically, what I would do is I would add a template that my students would then complete once they've learned the concept that I'm teaching. But to teach the concept, I use the add multimedia or example, and that's going to show up right under here. And right now it's in this gray box. This is what I've already created. So I'm going to click in there. And this is my first page. I have three pages here. I have a simple math, uh, a, um, a diagramming sentences or identifying parts of speech, and geography. So you can see that there's not much on these pages, but there's actually a lot more than meets the eye. So when I set up my lesson, I have what I want to teach my students on this slide. I am going to have these tools available to me where I can write and draw in different colors or erase. This hand right here, this is to move objects. This is going to be really important. And when I hit the record, I'll have an arrow that'll allow me to point, which I use a lot. You also can build, within Seesaw as you're filming. So if you wanted to type or if you wanted to add shapes, you can. But what I do is I set my lesson up and I'm going to kind of walk you through what that would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and record and I'm going to imagine that I'm teaching my students how to add these numbers. So I might introduce that, we're going to be adding 14 and 16. We might want to talk about, the ones place, the tens place. So let's go ahead and begin with what's 4 plus 6. So we have 4 plus 6. Altogether, that is 10. But I need to regroup. So I'm going to go ahead and regroup my 1. And that's really important that I regroup that 1. Now, when I look at my tens place, I actually have 3 numbers to add. 1, you can do the number 1 plus 1 plus 1. So let's see what that would look like. 1 plus 1 plus 1. That equals 3. So our answer is 30. So as you can see, I'm done recording now. Um, from the Seesaw side, there was a lot to be discovered there, right? We had 10 frame. I did color coding. I had the numbers ready. I was able to quickly walk them through and guide them through the lesson. So the question is, I guess, how do you do that? So I'm going to go ahead and re-record so I'm back here. And the answer is pretty simple. I basically build this. So this is what I built ahead of time. And in order for me, I locked it all. So you have the ability to lock, which essentially right here, you can unlock it. You want to lock anything you don't want to move. And then I come into my shapes and I go for this guy here because he's the most malleable. And I cover up what I want gone. So I know that I'm going to do 4 to show 4, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to do the 6. So I, like in the beginning when I showed you that there was 4 and 6, I basically cover it and then I make it white. There it is. It's gone. So I know it's there and I know where to click. And you saw on my video where it outlined, but in the Seesaw video, it does not show up that way, which is pretty awesome. And I simply click it and delete. So you can do that in a couple different ways. So I have another lesson over here. This is a, parts of speech. I'm using the Montessori, the symbols to teach. And let's say that this is something that my students have done. I can walk them through this lesson and I can ask them, well, let's find all the nouns first. Oh, man is a noun. And I can delete it, shelf and door. You can, okay, let's look for the verbs. Oh, yes. No, not, not strong. Built. Built is a verb. Adjectives, strong. Articles, the, a, and the again, and the preposition above. So here you can walk them through any kind of symbols that you want to appear one at a time. You can leave nice long breaks, ask a question and wait to see if they respond to give them time to think about it. There's another way that you can use some of this strategy of covering up with shapes and turning them white. And here's a simple geography lesson. And I can do 2 things. I can reveal, so there's my white text box, and I can show you right there. That's what it looks like. And when I delete it, it says, "Can you find the state California?" Well, let's say that I don't really want to cover it with a text box. The text box makes it hard to actually cover. I'm actually going to find it, and I can color it. Oh, there it is. You can turn it colors within the video. And, oh, can you find the state Michigan? Oh, yeah, that's right. There it is. And so I've actually found that after I I click, okay, and I have these films, each page gives me 5 whole minutes to teach each lesson. You can add anchor charts, you can add digital posters, you can add uh, visuals, and even like, questions and sounds and things that are just going to kind of scaffold your lesson so that your students are learning the way that you would have taught. And this is all within Seesaw. And so while the example is really great, where it says add student example, I find that when I add a template for my students, And I'm going to go ahead. I always use drawing. Drawing is the best. I feel like you can do anything you want in drawing. If I give them a simple worksheet, so here's something that I assigned my students. And one of my biggest tips for you is any worksheet you would have given them, screenshot it in half. Putting whole documents makes it really hard for them. So I usually do multiple pages. That's for those of you who have Seesaw Plus or Seesaw for Schools. And so here's my template. In my template area, I actually record on my template. So I usually read the instructions to my students and I talk about it. I give them my expectations, what I'm looking for. And so after if I hit record, and I don't write on the template because it'll save on the template, but it says list the external and internal characteristics of Charlotte. Think of as many words as you can to describe her. So we're reading Charlotte's Web. So this is one of the activities I would have done. After I read and talk about it, I can even use my arrow in this situation. Here's the external and here's the internal. When I click done, that video is still on their template. But what's really awesome is that when they get their own copy of the template, they're going to get my recording because it'll save on the template, but it says because it'll be there when they're done listening to me, they hit re-record and now they can write on their template and turn it in. So you have a couple different areas that you can record in. So I found that I love to teach in the Seesaw multimedia example, and then I will read and tell them what I want and expect on their template. So I hope that you found this helpful and it's inspired you to use those multi-page features and that filming, and I hope that it helps elevate your lessons while we are teaching at a distance. Thanks so much.